So, hello and welcome to the closing reading for the 2024 Tamaas Poetry Translation Seminar. I'm Malvika and I have the honor of working alongside Tamaas co-founders Sarah Riggs and Omar Berrada, who first began putting these translation seminars together almost 20 years ago, connecting poets in cross-diasporic collaborations of friendship, translation, correspondence, and communal writing. This year's session has focused on a slice of the world very dear to me, the global South Asian diaspora, whose languages and fingerprints and ghosts and shadows can be found on every street corner and gully, and has been really the most beautiful opening to the year so far yet in my life. It's just been such an honor to be in community with this fabulous group of poets. So I'm so honored to be welcoming poet collaborators Kazim Ali and Sara Ghazal Ali, Faisal Mohyuddin and Adeeba Shahid Talukder, Saudamini and Vivek Narayanan, Rajiv Mohabir and Aruni Kashyap, and Javeria Hasnain, Sanna Wani, and myself. Each collaborative translation pair will be reading for about 10 to 12 minutes each, presenting some of the tender, heartfelt works that have emerged from this special time at the top of the year. And before we kick it off, I do want to pass the mic to Sarah Riggs and Omar Berrada to say a word about the translation seminars and their history. So I'll pass you the mic. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Malvika. And hello, everyone, for being here, for joining us. And thank you to the poets for the work that they've been doing this whole week. I will just say a few words of introduction to contextualize what Tamaas is and what this gathering is about. So Tamaas is a nonprofit organization that Sarah and I created about 20 years ago. And the word Tamaas is an Arabic word, Tamaas, which means touch or a point of contact between things in different contexts. And so the Tamaas does intercultural artistic work along different threads with different projects. And one of the most enduring and regular projects that we've been doing is this translation seminar that's been happening it used to be every summer, but once a year, most years since 2005. And for many years, it used to take place in person in Paris for 1 week in the summer at Reed Hall, Columbia University's center in Paris. And it was co-curated by Sarah and Cole Swenson, who's here with us. And without giving you a rundown of the entire context behind it, I would say maybe I will sum it up in 3 points. The idea is to bring together a group of poets that we organize generally by pairs to work together for a week. Each poet brings a set of texts, and each pair is supposed to work to mutually translate each other. That's the basic initial premise. But I would say that the first point is that the point really is not so much to just translate text from a language into another to get to a set of texts in the end, but the point is really to focus on the process. Here translation is as a kind of ethical and aesthetic challenge of sorts. The second point is that it's a horizontal process, meaning that everybody is here as an author and everybody is here as a translator, and it doesn't matter whether the people are known as translators or have translated before at all. The point is really to consider translation as part of the creative process. And sometimes what comes out of it is not so much translations, but various creative endeavors or modes of collaborative writing. And the third point is that it's a collective process, meaning that pairs work together. So it's always you work with at least one person kind of continuously during a week, but it's also collective in the sense that it involves collective discussions among the entire group. So when it's on Zoom, every day there is a kind of group Zoom meeting where everyone involved gets to discuss what they've been working on, the problems they're coming across, and general issues about language translation, the world we're in, and more. So this year, so I should say that the kind of points of contact that Tamaas has dealt with over the years have been revolving around a triangle of Morocco, France, and the United States for biographical reasons of Sarah and myself. So the languages of the translation seminar have often been Arabic, French, and English. This year is different, and that's thanks to Malvika Jolie, who has curated the seminar this year and participated in it, and you'll hear more as we go. And I'll leave it to Sarah to say what I haven't said.
Thanks, Omar. So just as an addendum, I just wanted to say that the translation seminar has really been influenced by the virtual platform these last three occasions, where we used to, meet at a bistro for lunch in person, and people would just talk about this and that. And this format has allowed a kind of deep conversation about translation and its questions of touch and longing and politics and language conundrums. And so this has been a kind of advantage of the virtual platform. So I just wanted to say that as an addendum. And I really want to shout out Malvika Jolie as a really incredible curator. She's just been amazing in drawing everybody out. So thank you so much, Malvika.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm so honored to, one second, hold on. Okay. I'm so excited to introduce our first collaborative pair, Kazim Ali and Sarah Ghazal Ali. Kazim Ali was born in the UK and has lived since then transnationally in the US, Canada, India, France, and the Middle East. His books encompass multiple genres, including the volumes of poetry Inquisition, Skyward, The Far Mosque, The 40th Day, All One's Blue, and the cross-genre texts Bright Felon and Wind Instrument. His novels include the recently published The Secret Room, a string quartet, and among his books of essays are the hybrid memoir Silver Road. He's also an accomplished translator of Marguerite Duras, Saurabh Seperi, Ananda Devi, whose house he is joining us from today, it seems, Mahmood Chokrali, and others, an editor of several anthologies and books of criticism. His newest books are a volume of 3 long poems entitled The Voice of Sheila Chandra and a memoir of his Canadian childhood, Northern Light. He's joined by Sarah Ghazal Ali, the author of Theophanies, which is coming out in just a handful of days with Alice James Books, a Janekian scholar, Tin House resident, and winner of the Siwani Review Poetry Prize. Her poems appear in American Poetry Review, the Kenyan Review, Poem a Day, Guernica, and In My Heart. A former Stadler Fellow, Sarah is the poetry editor of West Branch and lives in the Bay Area in California. This is a really beautiful pairing. I first met Kazim through his sort of omnipresence in my poetic lineage as a South Asian queer poet at Play in the World, and again in Seattle this time last year. And I know Sarah through a beautiful gang of immigrant women writing poetry across the nation, and both ask beautiful questions about grief, the body, and language. I'm so excited to welcome them both onto the Zoom stage. Please give them a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the beautiful introduction, and thanks for inviting me to participate in this incredible week of conversations. Having a little bit of separation anxiety, so I think we should have some reunions. Maybe not every single night, but I think there should be a Tamaas 24 vibe that continues. Maybe starting in Kansas City next month, for whoever's going to be there, we'll do a little gathering. I think that would be really nice. So Sarah and I work together. We actually approach we talked at the beginning, and we're both dealing and writing around the question of motherhood. In my case, having just lost one, and in Zara's case, having just become one. So we kind of decided to, in the beginning, my plan had been different. And then after our first conversation with the group, we decided to lean into that as the governing vibe. And so that's where the work for the week came from. And Zara, I don't know if you want to add anything at the beginning, but my thinking was just like, let's start with that initial poem I sent and just read what we created over the week, because I think we'll have time for that within the framework.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I'll just add that it very much feels like we've barely scratched the surface, and translation for us looked quite different than I think what I had initially thought this would look like. It very much feels like more of a transcreation than a translation process. And at some point, Kazim said something really beautiful about how the translator does not need to resolve issues of meaning in the original. And I think that's something that stuck with me. And so as we went on, I think my translations got looser and looser. Should I share my screen, Kazim? Does that work?
Yeah, if you like. And I can't remember who invented that or came up with that, coined that phrase, transcreation. But I also think of Erin Moray's formulation. I mean, her, since her name starts with an E, it has double meaning for her, but it works for everyone, which she says transelation. So here was this was the initial poem that I sent. My mother's name was Ruqaya, and this means one who ascends, one who rises. Rise, home flowers grew, who drew me in this shape, my tow rope, drawn at dawn, who rose in air, who dispersed in hours, days wore on, who wore this coat of sun, sworn sun, worn down to dusk, who turned the husk or shape right toward God, who left this earth, who flew in waves, who waves from shore, who knew my ways of rain that seed in blue lines pool, who knew me then, who knows me now, who relieves the shape of earth, from whom relief, what rose across the sky, the eye in my life, who knows who left, who's left.
Rise. घर फूल खिले बाजार में हम गिरे Allahu who durud who drew who knew ye jism jis liye me gardam who drew who knew who left who drew me gardam who ghum दिन गुजरते रहे वो उड़ती रही दिन ढलता रहा वो उड़ने लगी who rose who Allah who और हवा में मी गर्दम who knew who knows who flew घर फूल खिले Allahu who flew सूरत दुनिया जिससे चैन जो आसमान पर कतारी लगाता है मेरी जिंदगी में मैं किसको पता कौन गया कौन रह गया. And this I'll skip over. Do you want to jump to this, Kazim?
Don't skip. Go back, because
Don't skip?
I answer you. I answer this part.
Oh, right. Okay. Sarai. A name is not unlike a sexed body. Like mine, it carries, is remembered most for what it fails to yield. A name is a condition meant to last, to outlast, as should a daughter her mother tongue. I am, but do not have, a daughter. When I look in the lake, who looks back is a sister self. Oh, little I carry you as you carry who I am waiting to be.
Yearn, who you are waiting to be. Does it lurk inside your name? Can you travel out from under it? Your destiny as written by blood and genetic code, or in laws graven in fire upon stone. The old stories of God come down hard. Bodies rest in rock and earth, turned even in death toward him. Who was the planet when you found it? An idea in space and decided to enter, so did the Creator create creation, and upon arrival, who did you find? Who founded you, governed you, chose your name? Am I, or am I the you that you had written? And every story had written in the cost of denying you, no, Father, I will not allow you to bind me. What is this boundless thing already bound in a body? What is my breath inside but the art of return? I have already been sacrificed. It is not another death our other part yearns for, but my refusal to submit to chains of man. All of creation yearns for my endless song.
Okay, and then here I'll jump forward because I retranslated my translation of this and tried to work in the actual Urdu as well, in the Urdu script. So this is Taras. जो तुम बनना चाहते हो, तुम्हारे नाम के अंदर घाट लगाता है. क्या उसके नीचे से बाहर सफर कर सकते हो? तेरी किस्मत जो खून और नस्ल में लिखी है, या पत्थर पर आग से कुंडा कवानीन, खुदा की पुरानी कहानियां, खौफनाक सजा, जिस्म पत्थर जमीन में कब्र ढूंढता है. मौत में भी खुदा ही किबला है. कौन था सयारा जब तुमने ढूंढा? एक ख्याल खला में सोच के अंदर आए. तो क्या खल्क उल खालिकी और जब पहुंचे, कौन मिला? किसने बुनियाद रखी? हुकूमत की, नाम चुना. मैं हूं या वो तुम जो तुमने लिखा. हर कहानी में तुम्हारा इनकार करने की कीमत. नहीं मेरे वालिद, मैं आपको मुझे बांधने नहीं दूंगा. क्या लामहदूद चीज इस जिस्म में बंधा हुआ है. मेरी सांस है क्या बस लौटने का फन. मैं तो कब से कुर्बान हुआ. ये मौत नहीं जिसके लिए हमारा दूसरा हिस्सा तरस रहा है, पर मेरा इंसान के जंजीरे के आगे झुकने का इनकार. तमाम तख्लीक मेरे लामतनाही गाने के लिए तरस रही है. Are we good on time? Can we read like a little bit more or yeah? Okay. And now I'll go back. Kazim, should I read this one too? Okay. The Art of Return. This boundless thing bound already in my body, breath budding behind my breathing, heaving, heavy the wonder, heavier the wound I wield, hers when, yours then, and all ours, bound to the mantle, what martyr, what mother, beyond worth, the language behind dearth.
And then I tried a little Urdu. Mix. और अब मैं ये कैसे बोलेंगा? जुबान के बगैर मैं अपना कह सकता हूँ. छोटे टुकड़ा में मैं आंध्रा में हाथ फैलाता हूँ. as you translated my body from within you into the world, has your body now translated out from it, the last life and the next one, only two languages of a body. Mera koi bhi istiara zakam nahi bar sakta. No language can cross this seam.
Here, I just kind of partially tried to translate and then marked where I didn't need to. How now to say this without a tongue, how I can say I, but fragments in the dark. I unfurl my hands. No metaphor can fill this wound. No language can cross this seam. And then Silai. Jahan dil par daag, wo jagah hareem hai. जब जख्म बढ़ नहीं सकता वो गुर्बत का उन्वान है हाँ औलाद अव्वल से जुदा है लेकिन रब शहरग से करीब है पहला महरम वालिदैन है अब हम गुर्बत नसीब है Seam. Where the heart is blemished, that mark is holy. When a wound is unfillable, call it exile's prelude. Yes, offspring ruptures from origin, but he is closer than your jugular vein. The first mahram is the mother, and now all of us are exiled. Should we stop there? I feel like we hit 10 minutes and I'm not sure. Yeah? Okay. How do I not share? Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow. I love that as you translated my body out of the world and no language can cross this seam. Just, yeah. Thank you both so much. Next up, we have Faisal Mohyuddin and Adeeba Shahid Talukder. Faisal is the author of Elsewhere, an Elegy, forthcoming in 2 months from Next Page Press, and The Displaced Children of Displaced Children, which is the book I originally met you through. He's also the author of The Riddle of Longing, which came out in 2017, and teaches English at Highland Park High School in Chicago and creative writing at Northwestern University's School of Professional Studies. He's joined by Adeeba, who is a poet, vocalist, and translator of Urdu and Persian poetry. She's the author of What Is Not Beautiful, a chapbook that came out with Glass Poetry Press, and her debut collection, Shahid, The City of the Beloved, which came out with Tupelo in 2020 and was winner of the Kundiman Poetry Prize. Adeeba has received fellowships from Kundiman and Poets House and holds an MFA in creative writing from the University of Michigan. She is currently training in Hindustani classical music under Ustad Salamat Ali and is a New York State Council on the Arts grant recipient. Adeeba and Faisal, take it away.
Thank you, Malvika. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah and Omar, for hosting us here. And thank you, everyone, for being here. So, I mean, one thing I'll say very quickly is I have had very little experience with translation, but I have known Adeeba for a few years, and one of my favorite writerly experiences I ever had was when Rajiv, who's here with us, asked me to write a review of Adeeba's book, Shahid, a few years ago, which was one of the coolest experiences of helping me become more rooted in Urdu and Persian and Arabic poetic histories. So I just want to thank Adeeba for offering that book to the world, and to be able to partner with you this week has been really, really special. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, especially to work with you.
I'm also super grateful to finally have the chance to work more closely with you. I've admired your work for a while, and especially Faisal has been during I guess I don't want to call it a war, but during what's been happening in Gaza, Faisal has been writing these haikus just about every day, and these haikus of resistance. And we kind of, I guess, have approached Gaza in our work in different ways. And so we were drawn to each other's work that engaged with that And yeah, do you want to start?
Sure. So we kind of started with our own poems about Gaza, and and we both like posted these on social media, so which we kind of said are self-published in some ways, and we were talking a little bit about like how does that free us to kind of get out what we want to get out when we want. And I think that was part of the reason we wanted to translate or work together on translations of these poems, just because we feel like the audience needs to be maximized now. So we'll start with Gaza Turns Dark, which Adeeba wrote a few weeks ago. So I'll read the English that Adeeba wrote, and then Adeeba will do the Urdu translation that we worked on together with the transliteration in the middle. So Gaza Turns Dark. Tonight, Gaza falls. Its heart of night, black as absence. Tell me, are we anything but dust and ash? And what do we seek in the ruins? The skies are red with fire, with fury of gods who have seized the elements. Earth and water, water, water. I think I got the wrong version of your poem here. There's a revised version. I'm sorry. I'll just keep going with this one. So, beauty is formed from dust only to be destroyed. Existence, an edifice that will turn to rubble. To quench such a fire, what lineages must be dismantled? How many children turned to spectacle? How many martyrs covered in white to be named holy?
Thank you, Faisal. I also wanted to add that one of the reasons I specifically self-published this poem is because the idea of submitting this to, the gatekeepers to sort of determine whether this was worth publishing just felt kind of corrupt in this instance. Or to use it to further myself felt wrong, and that's why I self-published on my end. But yeah, this is the translation we worked on together, and Faisal had so many ideas. I think you're particularly attuned to sound and rhythm in a way that I think I kind of have sort of an intuition for, but like you can name it, and I really that really helped me sort of work on this with you. गज़ा अंधेरे में आज रात गज़ा घिर गया है, उसका दिल रात की तरह वीरानी की तरह सियाह। बताओ हम खसो खाक के सिवा क्या हैं? खुदाओं की वहशत से आसमान भड़क उठे हैं, और तमाम अज्जा ज़मीन हवा और जहां भर का पानी उनके कब्ज़े में आ गए हैं। हुस्न खाक से तराशा जाता है सिर्फ उजड़ जाने के लिए। वजूद महज शानदार इमारत है जो किसी न किसी रोज़ खंडर हो जाएगी। ऐसी आग से कितने ख़ानदान मिटेंगे, कितने बच्चों का तमाशा होगा, कितने शहीद आखिर सफ़ेद कफन पहनकर मुक़द्दस हो जाएंगे। And I think I wanted to move on to Faisal's haikus, which are brilliant, and the more I got to work with them, the more I realized the kind of wordplay he was engaging in, and the kind of meanings that were coming out just from how short they are. And so Faisal, are you going to read the English and I read the Urdu? Is that good?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. And so one thing we talked about with haiku is, I mean, for me, one of the reasons I turned to haiku, and the first one I wrote was November 1st. So this is about 3.5 weeks after October 7th. And today's like the 3-month anniversary, which is kind of heartbreaking to think that things have only gotten worse. But I was so overwhelmed with feeling and with anguish that I didn't know how to even start writing. And so one day I was on the train to work and I just started writing a haiku, and I think we'll read the first one that I wrote, and it felt so freeing. I'm like this small, tiny box, 3 lines, the 5-7-5 syllable structure. And so when we were working with the translations, we knew that we can't really stay true to the English meaning by keeping the rhythm. I mean, the syllables the same. And so the syllable structure didn't stay that way, and I felt very freed by that as well, especially the way Adeeba is able to take language. Like my vocabulary, I feel like, is very limited with Urdu. Adeeba's is much more expansive. We also had these 2 different dictionaries that we were spending a lot of time with, and like reading definitions out loud to each other and sending screenshots or like photos of different definitions. So I think like that the tininess of a haiku allowed us to kind of spread out a little bit more, which I really appreciated. So this one, the first one was from November 26th. And so there's a young girl named Reem, whose grandfather has kind of become internationally known, but he was like holding her dead body and saying "soul of my soul" to her. And so this one was written in response to that death and that the kind of the grace that he has shown since that. So for Reem and her grandfather, and for all the children killed and all the grieving parents, grandparents, and loved ones. And Reem means gazelle in Arabic. Soul of my soul, sweet gazelle, galloping heaven word, wordless witness.
So I actually wanted to work with this a bit more. If we had a couple more days, I think we would have. I wanted to work on the sort of the last line word, right? The end of that heaven word, wordless witness. I wanted to replicate that, but for now, I tried working with just creating a rhythm that flows in Urdu. So रीम और उसके नाना के नाम, उन तमाम बच्चों के नाम जो मारे गए हैं, उनकी रंजीदा माँ बाप और अजदाद के नाम। रूह रूह, वो हिरन जो बहिश्त की तरफ दौड़ रही है, एक खामोश गवाह।
Thank you. I mean, I would say just for me to hear my words in Urdu has been, I feel like there's something deeper within me that's being able to be expressed. And so I'm really grateful to hear it and to see it. Next one is from November 20th. Not all of them, I mean, they're dated, but I won't read all the dates. But such weakness. You kill journalists, kidnap poets, steal even God's reign.
क्या बुज़दिली है, तुम सहाफ़ियों को कत्ल करते हो, शायरों को कैद, ज़ालिम तुमने तो खुदा की बारिश भी छीन ली।
So this one was the first one that I wrote back on November 1st. So each next bomb you drop kills another universe of innocence, yours.
तुम्हारी हर बमबारी मासूमियत की कायनात को मार डालती है, तुम्हारी।
Children beg to be seen, beg to be spared, yet are killed and killed and killed.
सुनो बच्चे तुमसे इल्तिजा कर रहे हैं कि तुम उनको देखो देख कर बख्श दो मगर तुम उनको मारे जाते हो, मारे जाते हो, मारे जाते हो.
This one, I know we talked a lot about some of the choices that Adeeba made here. So one was like she starts with suno, which means listen. And I think you had said that it was just kind of an intuitive decision that you made to add that word to the translation. And I was like really moved by that choice because I would not have, again, with syllable restrictions, I would not have been able to add more. But because in the translation, we're not worried about syllables, like adding that word adds that emphasis of like, like really imploring people to pay attention and to listen. And even the last line in English, killed versus mare jate ho, and the number of syllables makes it even more kind of emphatic. So I really found this translation, and Adeeba led these, and I found that really powerful. And then this morning I got up and I was inspired to write some haiku in Urdu and to keep the 5-7-5 or try it. So I told Adeeba, I haven't run these past her yet, but I'll read these as best as I can in my transliterated Skrill. So I don't, but I feel like this is, we have so many ideas for what we want to keep doing and working on together. And so this might be a bridge to the next thing. So, डूब गए हो दिल के गुर्बत में क्या ढूंढ रहे हो और ज़मीन और खून. So you've drowned in the poverty of your heart. What are you looking for? Are you looking for more land, more blood? आप क्या चाहते हो कि हम भी कब्र में जाएं? दिल तो जिंदा है. So what else do you want? That we also jump into the graves with the rest of the people you've killed? Our hearts are still too alive for that to happen. Allah हमको उन जैसी नफरत से बचाए. हम प्यार के लोग हैं. So, oh God, save us from that kind of hate. We are a people who love. ज़मीन हमारी है, आसमान भी हमारा. उनकी क्या बात है? So the land is ours, the heavens are ours. Who cares what they say? I mean, I feel उनकी नजर से रखें दूर हमारा सुकून मसूमियात. So keep us free from their gaze on our peace and our innocence.
It's really lovely to hear you read these, and also just like your impromptu translations, and just makes me think of how often we're in a state of translation. Do we have time for one more, or are we?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is from before. I've been doing a lot of transcreations, just taking these poems and kind of sometimes bringing them into the present. Fez was a poet of resistance, Fez Ahmed Fez, and just using his poems that resisted oppression in Pakistan to resist oppression here, and there are these two verses of Fez, Sham Firaq Abna Pooch, Ayu Raki Tal Gayi, that I use here, which is, don't ask of the night of separation. It came and was eluded. And then there's Aakhir Shab ke hum safar, Fez na jane kya hue, reh gayi kis jagah sabah, subh kidhar nikal gayi. So what happened to our companions at the end of the night, Fez? Where did we leave the dawn, and how where did the morning slip away? And that's a very rough translation, but so this is a short transcreation from that, and I wrote it after Charlottesville. Excuse me. Sham-e Firaq, the evening of separation. As we light the grief of you, watch the night toss, turn, wake from its fitful sleep. We too left our homes with torches, our light fainter, Like the dawn, so faint, we chanted and left it behind. And that's it for us, right?
Thank you both so much. Wow. And see, I love what a natural
Thank you.
translation. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you so much.
both. Okay, just in the interest of time, next up we have the wonderful Saudamini Deo and Vivek Narayanan. Saudamini Deo is a writer, photographer, and translator from Jaipur. One second. Her translations of short stories by Bhuvaneshwar and Rajkamal Chaudhary have been published by Seagull Books, and her nonfiction work on visiting various Kali temples in the South Asian subcontinent, La Langue du Kali, is forthcoming in French. I know Saudamini originally not from her writings or her translations, but from her keen, sharp eye and from her deeply lush and sensual scenes of life. These postcards from Jaipur that she puts together amidst Sephardic orange cakes, cracking almonds by hand, messy tables, rum and water, salt, hot milk, fog, and mist. And she's joined by Vivek Narayanan. Vivek's book of poems are After, which came out in 2022 with New York Review of Books, Life and Time of Mr. S, and Universal Beach. A full-length collection of his selected poems in Swedish translation was published in 2015, and he's been a fellow at the Radcliffe Institute and a Cullman Fellow at the New York Public Library. His poems, stories, translations, and critical essays have appeared in journals like Poetry Magazine, the Paris Review, Poetry at Sangam, Granta, Modern Poetry and Translation, and many, many more. He's also been anthologized widely. Vivek currently teaches poetry at the MFA program at George Mason University, where he also sits on the boards of the SHU's International Writers Center and Poetry Daily. I first met you, Vivek Saab, in Seattle in a basement bar at the close of a Mehfil reading that Sarah and I were in together. And to meet you felt very meaningful and special to me. To sit with you felt like sitting amongst my father's friends as they chat about history, anthropology, literature, language, long into the night, which is a kind of vital company that I missed dearly. And I'm so delighted by the pairing of these two writers and the way they've just like shot off into the dark. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Saudamini and Vivek. Take it away.
Thank you. Just to do the audio settings, if it's on, if you got that, okay, great. And
Yes, done it.
yeah, what can I say? I'm so grateful for all the conversations and time and just brilliance. You know, did you want to say something, Saudamini?
No, pretty much. I just want to echo what you said. Just very, very grateful to be here. And I think, again, that we've mostly, we started with translation, but it's mostly, I think, in the realm of transcreation. So I think that we'd like to kind of read it first, and then maybe, you know, if we kind of want to discuss it later, we'll see. But yeah, if you want to share your screen, Vivek.
Yeah. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start. रोशनी के गोलाकार में सूफी मकबरा, यमुना के किनारे सूरज की सुबह की सैर से भयभीत सरकंडियां, तुम्हें अनदेखना अकेला सबूत नहीं.
The plane moves through air, a hand without a body. The bird eats time. Cities fast asleep below, and just us remaining awake. The sky's reflection, torn in so many places.
वृक्ष के उपवन में पुष्प हुए छलित,
I see you only as much as
तुम्हें अनदेखना
you were on the way. मुंह नजर आता है दीवारों के बीच.
बीच.
Watch where you step, friend, in this desert of love. The highways are automatic weapons. The walls conceal faces. Urinin panar poyanaha, ulla panar alam. The things we thought that we should do, where other things have done. If one poet is a liar, that makes all of them.
In the lonely grove of the Pundai tree, its black branches resembling limbs of bodies at midnight, speaking a language of closure, then closer, closer.
If you possess sight, this world is like a house of mirrors. One can see leaves shaped like peacock feet, bell-like flowers, and faces following faces in the walls. All night we heard them singing. This world, Mir, is not like strolling in the streets and bazaars in the forgotten cities of Mir.
In shadow's cool, wet depths, dark gathers weight, heaped white sand like a tomb in moonlight, a trace of wing above, that in the black arms of the Punnai grove, the flowers are betrayed. If he hasn't reached by now, my people in a boat are hunting many fish.
I saw the body of a baby goat float on the Sundarbans Delta. I saw a crow eating the body of a cow floating. I saw 20 million infected bodies. I saw a helpless horse standing beside a dead white horse on Esplanade. I saw 2 million deaths. I saw a dream. I was 6 years old. I saw a hand without a body. I saw the bird each time. If one poet is a liar, that makes all of them. Urinin panar poyanaha, ulla panar allam. Those are the official figures. It will begin again.
This world, Mir, is not like strolling in the streets and bazaars in the forgotten cities of Mir.
The whole town was sleeping, but we were not. Candor and ardor is Mir. Heart and heart is Mir. Leaves shaped like peacock feet hung in great dark bunches on the Nachi tree. Repetition and the insistence of repetition is Mir. I speak without speaking from the window of Mir. Too pretty and withering on the soft twig where the bell-like flowers. All night we heard them singing. In all the streets called Mir, in the forgotten city of Mir.
If love ebbs and at midnight
Kamam Yamatu
the hard rains sound into the caves,
Vittirakattu Yambam,
wait with maneless lions, bones of bears, for the boy that ate forgotten fruit. To have known him is to have unlearned the giant and dreamless sky.
if love ebbs and at night,
Alone,
Kamam Yamatu,
the names
the hard
of
rains sound into
while the
the
mind
caves.
wanders
Vittirakattu
loses
Yambam,
itself
wait with
in the
maneless
bustle
lions,
of the
bones
predatory
of bears,
markets.
the boy
There
that
is no
ate forgotten
chance
fruits.
except
To have known him is to have unlearned
come
the
closer,
giant and
closer,
dreamless
closer.
sky. Rivers alone remember the names of rivers, while the mind wanders and loses itself in the bustle of the predatory markets. There is no past except the desert. Come closer then. Closure, closure.
I saw the body of a baby goat float on the Sundarbans Delta. I saw a crow eating the body of a cow floating. I saw 20 million infected bodies. I saw a helpless horse standing beside a dead white horse on his planet. I saw 2 million deaths. I saw a dream. I was 6 years old. I saw a hand without a body. I saw the bird eats time. I saw cities fast asleep below, and just us remaining awake. I saw if one poet is a liar, that makes all of them. Those are the official figures.
Urinin Panar Poyanaha, Ulla Panar Elam.
It will begin again. It will be 10,000 degrees on this earth, 10,000 suns, people will say. The asphalt will burn. The highways are automatic weapons. The walls conceal faces upon faces. वह तोड़ती पत्थर देखा मैंने उसे इलाहाबाद के पथ पर. वह तोड़ती पत्थर देखा मैंने Hiroshima. I saw a woman collapse on the streets of Paris. I saw my face in the mirror. I saw you only as much as तुम्हें अनदेखना, मेरा देखना, मेरा अनदेखना, अकेला सबूत नहीं.
The Sufi's tomb in its sphere of light at the Yamuna's edge, afraid of the sun on its morning walk where the wind trembled reeds, and unseeing of you, not the only proof. Thank you.
That braiding was exquisite. It's so beautiful to hear it that way. Thank you both. Big applause for you in the chat. Whew. All right, next up we have the wonderful Rajiv Mohabir and Aruni Kashyap. Aruni Kashyap is an associate professor in English and director of the creative writing program at the University of Georgia. He's a literary translator and the author of His Father's Disease and The House with 1,000 Stories, among others. He is an NEA Fellow for 2023 and based in Athens, Georgia. And as we learned this week, Aruni's parents are writers as well, and they fell in love writing to each other response poems, reply poems. And at the end of that story, or the beginning of the next one, his mother took those reply poems and put them into the body of a novel. And I think when we think about what a bio shares, I think that's all the bio we need for Aruni's like deep knowledge and deep sharing. He's joined by poet, memoirist, and translator, and like poet laureate of my heart, Rajiv Mohabir. Rajiv is the author of 4 books of poetry, including Whale Aria, which came out just last fall, Cutlish, which came out in 2021 and was a finalist for a National Book Critics Circle Award, and the recipient of the Eric Hoffer Medal Provocateur. His poetry and nonfiction have been finalists for the 2022 PEN America Open Book Award, the Lambda Literary Award in Poetry and Nonfiction, and many, many others. His translations have won the Harold Morton Landon Translation Award from the American Academy of Poets in 2020, and surely many more. He's an assistant professor of poetry at the University of Colorado Boulder. Rajiv is the most brilliant, wildly brilliant and generous among us. When you go to the dentist, you see how far your mouth will crack. Rajiv's heart cracks, 360 degrees. Always brilliant and always deeply competent, always cutting, always wise, whether about the globalized spaces of the Caribbean, about ways to have a conversation so that others feel it like an opening, about Hawaiian epistemologies, about how migration has no beginning, about how to find ways to harmonize with your own post-colonial heritage and to harmonize with others. I'm so lucky to know you both. Take it away. Give a very, very warm welcome to these two.
Oh my goodness, what an introduction. Thank you so much, Malvika. Thank you for your curation. I mean, it's so lovely to be with you all here and to have spent this week with your hearts. It's just been so incredible to be vulnerable and moved in this space. And what a wonder it is to collaborate with Aruni, who I have adored for so long. Aruni, if you'd like to say anything before we start. Oh, you're muted, darling.
Yeah, I could finally. I think that yes, it's really a pleasure. Thank you so much. I admire Rajiv as well, so the feeling is mutual. But I have immense respect and admiration from all of you here. For I have been reading your work this week, and I have read many of your works before. And it's been a great fun. Thank you, Malvika, for inviting me here, and thank you, Sarah and Omar and everybody for being with us this week. So Rajiv and I are going to read one like a Jugalbandi, a few poems, and I hope we'll be able to read it within that time limit. I shared a poem with Rajiv. Rajiv shared a poem with me. And we are going to start with Rajiv's poem, and we wrote reply poems to each other, and whatever lines sort of lit up our minds or stroke our imagination, we took them and made it our own and created new poems. If I'm describing it well, Rajiv, if you please add anything that I missed.
Oh no, that's great. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I will give a disclaimer. Meri maa to dusre kamre mein baiti hui hai, and I'm kind of like now sharam because this first poem is called God Slut. So maaf karna. So basically, we'll start here with the God Slut, and then we'll talk a little bit about the process. Does that sound good, Aruni?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Everyone can see my screen, yeah? Okay. Fabulous. And a little bit behind this, I've been thinking about devotion in kind of like as a place to where I have turned, after this kind of like trauma around relationships that I've been kind of dealing with, and the kind of fog that I've been living in. And so here's this, translating the ideas into my own particular very gay idiom. Whose marriage string lies strewn, broken on the grass, where you once sat me to make me drink from your eyes? Take my bangles, take my veil, this coal, any ring you've ever fitted on my body's girth, and I will abandon all 16 bridal ornaments. Just say which moon night, and I will run and smash all the wine goblets, break my black beads that guard against the evil eye, snag them on the open mouth of my kangan. To hell with beads and glass and marriage threads. Last night, my mehendi set the darkest it ever dusked, and nights again. I will keep off my anklet bells, all markers of auspice. Let you shake my nose pin and earrings loose in the sand, oh God. Make me your whore tonight, and morning would never come so hard.
The yellow portions, the highlighted portions are the ones that I had highlighted. And those are the things that kind of stood out for me, and I couldn't stop thinking about them. They stayed in my mind. And surprisingly, even though infidelity or lovers and sex and desire has been, and love has been a dominant theme in our collaboration, I was thinking about my love for my mother and how I was handling my grief when she passed away in 2016. And I think that grief is still there and it never really goes away. So my response to Rajiv was actually a very different taste of kind of love, which is my love for my mother and how I was grieving. The Orbits of Grief, reply to Rajiv Mohabir's God Slut. For the first few months after you were gone, I used to wake up startled at midnight, dawn, the hour after dinner when half the world was still awake. During those days, I kept the television on to ensure the comfort of human voices around me, to make my heart believe I'm around people, even though I need not have to create voices around me because in the other room, someone, a friend, lover, relative, always stayed back to take care of me if needed. I called myself fortunate and cried in the bathrooms because your leaving made no sense. Was it because I cheated on my lovers? Was it because I had been a whore? No fortunate person loses a loved ones this way. 3 days and you're gone. 3 days ago, you were in a classroom discussing 19th century poetry, Roma Rolla, Henry Derozio, and Vidyasagar's mother, who threatened to burn herself to death if he married a widow. After the first few months, grief was all about discovering old things like new. Your black beads, coal, bangles, your comb with some hair in it, the face powder. I saved them in drawers, Ziploc bags, not knowing what to do, but knowing for sure that I won't throw them away. Years later, in another country, another life, a house shaded by pines and hollies that wore rubies in winter, grief's orbit changed course and became all about memories flooding in when I opened a forgotten drawer full of things that belonged to you, a bag, notebook full of poems, and a bangle that doesn't fit my wrists.
Oh, Aruni, that last line just, it slays me. Thank you. The next poem that I'm going to read is called Hatyara Premi, Killer Lover. And this is, I'm calling a fag or a fragmented splinter translation of The Plant Killer's Lover by Aruni Kashyap. And here is the original. And you can see what lines of Aruni's I have translated into Bhojpuri or into Guyanese Hindustani. And I have used the orthography of Sarnami Bhojpuri, which is transliterated into Romanized script with accents over the longer vowels. So I will read this poem. Hatyara Premi, Killer Lover. तू हमके रंडिया बुलावे रहे काहे की हम अभी भी दूसर मर्दवा के छोड़त रही. What is it about the heart that demands fealty, tribute, made of hard wood, with no give, that come daylight I am splintered, not to be remade? Biba ki ristuwa mein bhala kha hoye, hum to ke batiyawe, hamar ego house khas village wala phegwa phiye se pahile, ganda hasmukh ramshap mein baital. आपन के ब्याहल कहे में या आपन के रिश्ता जोड़ने कहे में का बाटी. I have no relief of that reflected fire, so why be devout to any body? बेला लगल बिस्तरवा के पास और तुलसी बाहर रख देली, लोगन के स्वागत करे खातिर. एक दिन तू हमके तू हर दिल. Just ask the dahlia, withered, browning, or the camellia bed, where I sang to my husband when we dug the earth and prayed for Durga Ma to bless our threshing. Aisa na nahe ki tu nar ke khush kare. There have been at least 54 inches of men since him, and it's been one Krishna Paksh. Lot, vapas ao. He always said it would be me who would splinter him unrecognizable. Aisa na bhail, tu jab dusar manusuwa khatir hamke chodal del. And Aruni, he made me bend until I don't recall what of me ever supported chairs, his baluch rug, or even the slant of midwinter morning. Garmi tulsi podhe ke maar dil. बेला जे फलंगिया पास रहे आपन खाली खोले से पहिले गर्मी भी सुकल दे और तू हर पर हम विस्की छड़े के बाद मर गए. What night is tonight? What can a vulture offer the moon? How long have I been asleep, black feathered on the ground? How long since I've been without? दुख में डूबे के हम तो के वापस आए खातिर बुलावल लोट हम खेलास. Light, since I've been vaguely hung over this worn laminate flooring, no comfort except to remind me of my flesh, its connection to bone, that this body is a temple to pain. Oh, and the next poem that Aruni is going to read is going to be a translation. Aruni, if you don't mind if I can just kind of introduce this a little bit.
Sure.
This is a poem that I wrote called Godana Godave, which there's a tradition of getting tattoos that women would have. And so like I actually have a tattoo that's like in reference to my grandmother's tattoo. And so like after women married in my family, they would tattoo themselves. But there were these songs that they would sing about tattooing that when I got my tattoo, there was no one to sing that song. So I wrote a song for myself getting a tattoo. So this is I wrote it in Hindustani and in Guyanese Bhojpuri first, and then I translated it into English, and so it's all singable. Akele baithe godavana godave, kahe akele godanava godave, rakva se bhala kon lakdi banave, tutal dhaga bhala kon dubara jorave. And so this is how it goes. But here's the English translation that I'll read very quickly to get to Aruni's translation. Tattooing. All alone you tattoo your arm. Why are you alone in tattooing yourself? From ash, who can remake wood? Who will rejoin a thread once broken? In darkness, you cannot see yourself. What you don't understand remains before you. Your language is a ghost. Your mouth is white. Both courtyard and kitchen empty. Marriage cord broken, a scorpion is lost in the house. Don't apply mehendi. Red has become black. Without sandalwood trees, what is incense? Without bricks and lime, who can build a house? You will find Hassa on Liberty Avenue, though your stew pot is broken. If there are no gardens, where will you find blooms? Leaving Guyana, who will play songs? The drum and dantal are broken. Who can fix them?
Lovely, Rajiv. So when I translated it, I named the poem Citralekha. Citralekha is a mythical figure from the epics in India. And she was a best friend of Usha, who was in love with Aniruddha. Aniruddha was the grandson of Lord Krishna. And they wanted to elope, and Citralekha had some mythical powers through which she helped. One of her powers was that she was able to, she was kind of a time machine. She could fast forward time by killing a certain kind of bird. And then the other big power through which she gets her name is that whatever she drew anywhere on the body, or she drew mehendi anywhere or anything, it came to life. So if she drew a tiger inside the house, there would be a tiger inside the house. So Citralekha has this magical ability of bringing things to life, even if it is a very mundane thing like applying mehendi on the hand. So can be both used as a metaphor, but also definitely it evokes this mythical woman as well. So this is my transcreation of Rajiv's poem. It mostly Lowell, but the Citralekha thing actually is qualifies as a transcreation. Citralekha. Tumi Citralekha, akol horia, kyo aji tumi hongi bihin. Tumi sai para udbhid janma diba para, zora diba para, sigi joa hota. Andharat tumi bisari hamrao khwa nijorei mukh. Tumi buji nupua khini tumar honmukhot pathor. Tumar kothaburot bhautikota. Tumar sheto mukhomondol, kyo aji uka tumar sotal aro akhol. Biar bandhun aru nai. Ghorar majot piapi dise brishik. Aji nalogaba tumar hator rangar pra kolusia hoi pura jetuka. Sondon kathor obihone janu pari gohibo dhup. Ita kajinemur sugondobihin ekhon ghorar kinumullo. Liberty Avenue, ajiu tumi baba Assamese. তোমাৰ যে নাল ভগা কেৰাহী গায়নাৰ সেই এৰি অহা গানবোৰ আজি গাব কোনে এই দেশত আজি যে সকলো বাদ্যযন্ত্ৰত হিয়া ভগাৰ সুৰ Thank you.
Thank you, and I think that is our time.
Gosh, thank you both so much. Oh my God. It's just so fun to see the cross-pollinations that emerge. And now to close this out, we have the group that I was so lucky to be in. We have Javeria, Hasnain, Sanna, Wani, and myself. Javeria is a Pakistani poet and translator from Karachi. Her work has appeared in Poet Lore, The Margins, and Pleiades, among others. She's a 2023-24 Educational Associate at Teachers and Writers Collaborative, and I'm so excited to have come into your orbit. And you know, I'm like, I feel like introducing you like she's my fast friend. And she's joined by Sanna Wani. Sanna is the author of My Grief, the Sun, arguably the best poetry book on the planet, which came out with House of Anansi Press 2022, and it was the winner of the 2023 Trillium Prize for Poetry. She is the poetry editor at Fernwood Publishing and based in Toronto. And it's been such a pleasure to work with these two each day this week, thinking together about how translation is an editing tool, thinking about humor and the uncanny, the simplicity of children's language, the odd nature of personification in the English versus the Urdu, and the kind of magical quality of metamorphosis that happens, how translating each other's works is a way of getting closer to one another, and it just leaves you with so much love and understanding. So I'm so excited. Take it away, As.
Yay. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. There we go. A bit too far
If
ahead.
you wants to say a word, please feel free. Even two.
Oh. Javeria, would you like to say anything?
It's just like a privilege and a very, I think, a serendipitous moment for me when Malvika reached out, because what a way to start the new year. Just to be in the company of you all, whose work I have looked up to since I started writing and continue to learn from. And I hope I never take that space for granted. And just such an honor to be here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm gonna echo what Kazim said at the beginning about separation anxiety. I'm already like, it's just been such a pleasure this week to spend with you all, and I'm really grateful. Oh, 1 second.
So the first poem we're going to read is going to be a poem of mine in English, and then we'll have the two translations. And I'll just kind of kick it off. But in writing this poem, I wrote this poem 2 years ago when I was living in Chandigarh, and I was in like North India, and I had a really uncanny experience of like living through a really efficient, effective power workers strike, which is something that's like unimaginable, I think, in an American landscape of a strike that cripples the city. And it was a really beautiful thing to see, but also was really remarkable to me because I've always thought of like light departing the city and light flooding the city as a poetic and mythological metaphor, you know, from like the Ramayana to Short Bess onward. And it was like very beautiful to see. Crossing the warm sea of grief. In the end, no one was there. The army called in, their pockets filled with matches. The power workers' strike cut short. Light flooded the city, but we were not there to see it. We had boarded our ships for the warm sea of grief. The wild dogs of mourning split their pack, fleeing at last the home they had found behind our boundary wall. In time, the birds of night returned. The bee was never found. Eventually, we too ceased looking. And in the lapse, I found I had at last become a woman and flew far away.
गरम गम का समंदर पार करते हुए अंत में कोई नहीं था। मिलिट्री पीछे हो गई, उनके जेबें मैचेस से भरी हुई। बिजली वाले मजदूरों का हड़ताल एकदम से खत्म। शहर रोशनी से भर गई, लेकिन हम वहां नहीं थे देखने के लिए। हमने गरम गम का समंदर वाली किश्ती पे सवार हुए थे। मातम के जंगली कुत्ते ने अपने औलाद दूर किए, भागे आखिर में उस घर से जो उन्होंने बनाया था हमारे चार दीवारों से बाहर। वक्त के साथ रात की चिड़ियां लौट कर आईं, शहद की मक्खी कभी नहीं मिली। आखिरकार हम भी ढूंढना छोड़ गए और गुजारिश में मुझे समझ आ गई कि मैं आखिरान एक औरत बन गई हूँ और दूर उड़ गई।
समंदरे गम पार करते हुए आखिर में वहां कोई नहीं था। आर्मी माचिस से भरी हुई जेबों के साथ पीछे हटी। मजदूरों की हड़ताल अचानक रुक गई। बिजली ने शहर बहा दिया, लेकिन हम शहादत ना दे सके। हम अपनी कश्तियों में समंदरे गम को पार करने निकल चुके थे। जंगली मातमी कुत्ते अपने भेड़ से अलग हो गए। फरार होकर उन्होंने हमारे घर के पीछे अपना घर बना लिया। रात के परिंदे वक्त पर वापस आ गए। वो मक्खी फिर कभी नहीं दिखी। आखिरकार हमने भी ढूंढना छोड़ दिया और इतनी देर में मैंने जाना कि मैं औरत बन चुकी हूं और दूर उड़ गई। It's kind of a good experience that we were three people and we could really see how multiple translation worked, the choices that Sanna made, the choices that I made, and it was very, very fun conversing about that. So I'm going to read one of my Urdu poems. मैं लीमर के मुंह में निचली जबान हूं, लेकिन तीखा महसूस कर सकती हूं। सफाई का काम अच्छा करती हूं। बारिश मुझसे खफा है, मैंने उसकी मजदूरी में हिस्सा मांगा था। दरिया ने बहने से इनकार कर दिया है, अब समंदर में कोई नहीं उतरता। जिंदगी के मुहाफिज फारिग बैठे हैं, उनको नाअहल करने का हुक्म जारी हुआ है। मैं बेजान होकर भी खतरे में हूं, जैसे मैं दुनिया में एक लड़की पैदा हुई हूं।
I am lemur's second tongue, but I can taste spice. Cleaning I do well. Rain is upset with me. I asked for a bit of her work. River has politely declined flowing further. Now no one descends into ocean. Lifeguards are sitting idle. A law to nullify them is in motion. Even when I'm lifeless, I'm in danger, as if I were a girl born into the world. I just found it such an immense pleasure to translate Javeria's Urdu poems. I feel like a dream came true for me this week of like being able to experience poetry in Urdu, and in large part, I owe that to Javeria and her beautiful, uncanny voice. So the next one is a poem, my poem in English that Javeria translated into Urdu. So this is Alfred Adler. The past does not exist. The love I could not keep haunts me. The courage I need to be happy hides from me. I am sorting through the files of my life. I find a note that says, hello, hello. I make 3 piles. Stories I will keep, stories I will discard, stories I will write again. I write only in future and present tense. I discard hope. I dust off my heart where courage waits. I find the word I have been looking for. Live.
Alfred Adler. माजी मौजूद नहीं है, वो प्यार जो मैं नहीं संभाल सकी मेरा साया बन गया है। वो हिम्मत जो मुझे खुश रहने के लिए चाहिए मुझसे छुपती है। मैं अपनी जिंदगी की फाइल्स छांट रही हूं। एक नोट कहता है, हेलो, हेलो। मैंने 3 पलंदे बनाए, कहानियां जो मैं रखूंगी, कहानियां जो मैं फेंक दूंगी, कहानियां जो मैं दोबारा लिखूंगी। मैं सिर्फ मुस्तकबिल और हाल में लिखती हूँ। मैं उम्मीद भूल रही हूँ। मैं अपने दिल को जिंदा करती हूँ जहाँ हिम्मत मेरा इंतजार कर रही है। मैं वो लफ्ज खोज लेती हूँ जो ढूंढ रही हूँ। जियो।
So sorry to, okay. Yeah, okay. I will take us to the next one, which are Javeria, yeah.
Light years in 19 lines. In the first line, something dies. This tells me, before the beginning of a word, a thing was alive. Overgrown aloe vera, octopus hands. An ocean suffocates, producing bile. Dried jasmine lingers on my throat. W says swallow, twice, in quick succession. I swallow the dried petals. I pray, flour my stomach, Lord. If I pray anything, let death be the prayer. That is, not the object, but the subject of my prayer. Let me pray for death to be kind, to be lazy. Tell death about Zeno, the philosopher who discouraged all movement by saying no movement is possible. That a move will take death an infinite amount of time. Lord, let death's movement take light years. Let our years be light. Let the petals freshen as they reach our mouths and linger in our jaws like that.
उन्नीस खतों में नूरी सालें, पहली खत में कुछ मर जाता है। इससे मुझे समझ आती है लफ्ज से पहले कुछ जी रहा था। ज्यादा बड़ा हुआ एलोवेरा, ऑक्टोपस के हाथ, समंदर का धम कटना, उल्टी करना। सूखा हुआ यस्मीन मेरे गले में रुक जाता है। वाव बोलता है निकल दो, 2 बार जल्दी से। मैं सूखे फूलों को निगल जाती हूँ। मैं दुआ करती हूँ, म्योन में अतस फुल रहा हो खुदा। अगर मैं कोई भी दुआ करूँ, मौत की दुआ होने दो। ये है कि वो दुआ के ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं सब्जेक्ट है। मैं दुआ करती हूँ कि मौत नरम हो, सुस्त। मैं मौत को जिनों के बारे में बताती हूँ, वो फलसफी जिसने सब हरकतें खबरदार कर दी, कहते हुए कि कोई हरकत मुताबिक नहीं, कि एक हरकत मौत के लिए अनंत है। खुदा मौत की हरकतें नूरी सालें लेती हैं। हमारे साल धीमे बनाओ, जब वो हमारे मुंह तक पहुंचे फूलों को ताजा बनाओ, और ऐसे ही रुक जाओ हमारी जबड़ में। And then this is a poem that I wrote in Urdu. परिंदे खिड़की पे आए थे पूछने, छोटी किधर गई, उनको समझ नहीं आई थी, मैं वहां नहीं रहती अब। मेरा घर एक आसमां है, मेरा गम एक पंख है। मैं एक बेहुदा मुसाफिर हूँ, मैं एक नाइंसाफ पैगंबर हूँ।
A mena sits on my windowsill. Where's the little one? She doesn't know I don't live here anymore. The sky, my home, my wing, my grief. I am a disgusting traveler. I am an unjust prophet. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening.
Can we all give a very, very warm, real life, heartfelt like applause and hug and kiss and embrace for these two wonderful poets, and also to this collection of 11 wonderful poets. I'm so, so deeply thankful to you, Kazim and Sarah and Faisal and Adeeba and Saudamini, Vivek, Aruni, Rajiv, Javeria, and Sanna, for just like the wonderful vulnerability and space you've shared this week together. And as well, so appreciative to Sarah and Omar and Cole for coming up with this very special method and seminar and making it a reality and having it out in the world, such that, you know, they can be so generous and kind of pass it on and let others borrow it and have it kind of percolate throughout the world. This has been such a blessing and honestly a dream for me. I don't know how the rest of the year is gonna pan up. But something I've been thinking about is if migration has no beginning, and I think in the way that we all choose to live outside of the barriers of non-linear time, of linear time, this need not be the close to the week, but rather an opening for more writings, more correspondences, poetic conspiracy, and cross-pollinations to come. So I humbly like ask us all to invoke that and just have more abundance. And I think with that, we'll close it out, but I'll open up the security settings in case anyone wants to say bye on the way out, but it's been such a blessing. Thank you all so much.